The mysterious signal. The galaxy was quiet, the kind of silence that often settled before a storm. Stars twinkled, planets orbited their suns, and space felt vast, endless even. It was a time of peace, a time when the galaxy had no reason to fear Earth, a small, quiet planet in the far reaches of space. Humanity had always been looked down upon by the rest of the galaxy. Their technology was considered primitive, their ships old and clumsy. To the Galactic Council, Earth was a curiosity, a planet that barely made a dent in the grand scheme of things. But all of that was about to change. It started with a strange signal. At first, it was dismissed as an anomaly, just another random noise from deep space. There were plenty of these kinds of signals all the time. Most of them turned out to be harmless, just the universe's way of sending static across the vast emptiness. But this one was different. It wasn't random. It had a pattern, a purpose. It was intentional. And it was coming from Earth. The signal had first been detected by a small outpost on the edge of the galaxy, where few ships traveled. The team of scientists working there were used to detecting all kinds of space phenomena. They had seen the usual solar flares, black holes, and asteroid collisions, but this was nothing like anything they had encountered before. It was a pulse, steady, rhythmic, and deliberate. After a few moments of tracking it, the scientists realized that it wasn't coming from the Earth they knew today, but from something buried deep beneath its surface. Something ancient. Could it be? One of the scientists, Dr. Zarnak, said softly, as his fingers hovered over the controls of his console. Could this signal be from Earth's past? Dr. Zarnak was a seasoned researcher, but even he was stunned by the idea. He had always believed that Earth's great days of power were long gone. Humanity had once been a dominant force in the galaxy, known for its aggressive warships and advanced technology. But centuries ago, Earth had been abandoned. The galaxy had moved on. Earth, with its outdated technology, had been forgotten, buried under layers of time and space. No one remembered the mighty fleets that once belonged to it. No one remembered the Black Ship. The signal grew stronger with each passing hour, and soon, it was impossible to ignore. Dr. Zarnak sent a report to the Galactic Council, alerting them to the unusual find. However, when the report reached the higher-ups, the council members weren't immediately concerned. After all, they had seen these kinds of things before, and Earth had no real importance anymore. But curiosity got the better of them, and they decided to investigate. They dispatched a ship, the Nova Vanguard, a sleek and powerful vessel designed for deep space exploration, to trace the signal to its source. The crew was skeptical, but they obeyed orders. As they traveled toward Earth, they couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The closer they got, the more the signal seemed to grow, like a whisper calling them to something they didn't understand. The Nova Vanguard entered Earth's solar system, its sensors scanning the planet below. Everything appeared normal. Mountains, oceans, cities scattered across the globe. There were no signs of ancient technology, no sign of the power that the signal hinted at. But the signal didn't stop. In fact, it only grew louder as they entered Earth's atmosphere. "Where is it coming from?" Captain Lazara asked, her voice tense. "There's nothing on the surface. We're not picking up any significant readings," Lieutenant Trovos responded, his eyes glued to the control panel. "But the signal, it's still coming from below." "That's impossible," Captain Lazara muttered, feeling uneasy. "Let's run another scan, deeper this time." As the crew recalibrated their instruments, the signal suddenly changed. A new frequency began to emerge, one that was much clearer and more powerful than before. The Nova Vanguard sensors began to glitch, showing interference, as if something was blocking their ability to track the signal accurately. And then they detected it. Beneath the surface of the planet, deep beneath the oceans and cities, something massive stirred. "This is it," Lieutenant Trovos said, his voice cracking. "It's under the ocean." The team's excitement grew as they pinpointed the source of the signal, a deep oceanic trench, hidden far from human sight. It was a place few had ever explored. In the depths, the signal pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and steady, but with incredible power behind it. Captain Lissara's heart raced. This was no ordinary discovery. Whatever lay hidden beneath the ocean was no mere artifact. It was something much more significant. She ordered the crew to prepare for an immediate descent. The Nova Vanguard descended into the atmosphere, heading toward the location of the signal. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, their ship's sensors suddenly went wild. Lights flickered, and the ship rattled under the strain of gravity. The crew felt it, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to come from the very core of the planet. "What's happening?" Captain Lissara demanded. "Captain, the signal. It's coming from directly below us. We're getting interference from some kind of energy field," Lieutenant Trovos reported. As the ship drew closer to the ocean, the sea beneath them churned unnaturally. The waters were swirling, as if something enormous was rising from the depths. The crew was speechless. What had once been considered a forgotten relic of Earth's past was awakening, and it was more powerful than anyone could have imagined. In that moment, Captain Lissara understood. The signal wasn't just a message. It was a warning, a call for help, or perhaps something far more dangerous. The black ship, Earth's lost relic, was alive, and its awakening would change the galaxy forever. The awakening. The Nova Vanguard hovered over the vast, turbulent ocean. The water below seemed to be alive, rippling and thrashing, as if something was stirring deep beneath the surface. The crew watched in tense silence, unsure of what to expect next. The mysterious signal, once a distant whisper, was now a roaring pulse that reverberated through their ship's hull. It was clear now that whatever lay beneath the ocean was no simple relic. It was a force to be reckoned with. Captain Lissara stood at the helm, her eyes focused on the ocean below. "Prepare for landing." "We're going in," she ordered, her voice steady despite the nervous energy in the air. She knew that what they were about to uncover could change everything for humanity and the galaxy. The ship descended slowly, its engines humming as it broke through the clouds and into the thick mist surrounding the ocean. Below, the waters churned even more violently, as if they could sense the ship's approach. The crew felt the tension building, every second bringing them closer to the unknown. Suddenly, the ship's systems began to glow with an alarming red light. Alarms blared, and the sensors went haywire. Lieutenant Trovos, sitting at the console, slammed his hand on the panel. It's coming from below us. The energy is spiking. Too much for our systems to handle. Full power to the shields," Captain Lissara shouted, gripping the armrests of her chair. "We can't back out now. We need to know what's down there." With the shields fully activated, the Nova Vanguard plunged deeper into the heart of the storm. The turbulence grew worse, the ship shaking violently, as if something was pulling at it from below. The crew held on tight, bracing for impact. They were nearly to the ocean's surface when a blinding flash of light erupted from the depths. The ocean's waters parted, revealing a massive ancient structure rising from the deep. The crew gasped as the black ship, the very same ship that had been the subject of legends, the fabled vessel that once belonged to Earth, came into view. The enormous craft had been hidden for centuries, its power dormant, waiting for this moment. Its sleek, dark hull gleamed as if it had never been touched by time, its ancient energy coursing through its systems, waking from its long slumber. The signal had been the ship's call, and now it was alive. "This is impossible," Lieutenant Trovos muttered under his breath. "How is it still here? How is it still working?" Captain Lissara's mind raced as she tried to comprehend the magnitude of the discovery. The black ship had once been the symbol of humanity's greatest power, a weapon capable of annihilating entire fleets. But Earth had abandoned it long ago. It had been left to rust, its technology forgotten, its purpose lost. Yet somehow it had remained hidden beneath the waves, untouched by the passage of time. "Prepare to make contact with the black ship," Captain Lazara ordered. "This is a moment in history. We need to understand what's going on down there." The Nova Vanguard approached cautiously, its engines firing with precision as it hovered near the black ship's surface. The signal had led them here, but now the real challenge began. How could they make contact with a ship so ancient, so powerful, that it had been forgotten by all but the most legendary stories? The crew felt the temperature drop suddenly, and the air around them seemed to grow dense, as if something was watching them. The black ship's energy field pulsed with increasing intensity, its power unmistakable. It was as if the ship itself was alive, aware of their presence. "Captain, we're receiving something," Lieutenant Trovos called out, his voice trembling with awe. A series of symbols appeared on the ship's display. They weren't anything the crew had seen before, alien, yet somehow familiar. The symbols pulsed in sync with the ship's energy, as if it were communicating with them. Slowly, the symbols began to form into a message. "It's a warning," Trovos said, his voice a whisper. "It says, the time has come. Prepare for battle." Captain Lazara's heart raced. Battle? Against whom? She asked, more to herself than to her crew. Could this be a remnant of Earth's lost wars, a message from the past warning them of an impending threat? The questions flooded her mind, but there was no time for answers. The ship's massive doors began to open, revealing a hangar beneath. A faint, eerie light flickered from inside. The crew of the Nova Vanguard stared in stunned silence. The black ship was offering them access. "Let's go," Captain Lazara said. Her voice was firm, but even she couldn't hide the anxiety in her eyes. "We have no idea what's waiting for us in there, but we have no choice." The crew strapped in, prepared for whatever awaited them. As the Nova Vanguard landed within the black ship's hangar, the doors closed behind them, sealing them inside the heart of an ancient warship. The ship hummed with power, and the air seemed charged with energy. As they disembarked, the crew stepped cautiously into the unknown, their weapons drawn, their eyes alert. They had awakened something that had been dormant for centuries. But now, the black ship was alive again, and its purpose had not yet been revealed. Captain Lazara led the way down a dark corridor, the walls etched with ancient symbols that glowed faintly. The deeper they went into the ship, the stronger the feeling that they were not alone. The ship seemed to pulse with energy, guiding them forward, pulling them toward its core. "What's that sound?" Lieutenant Trovos asked, his voice barely audible. A low rumble echoed through the ship, followed by the sound of machinery coming to life. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Something was awakening within the black ship, and it was not going to be a peaceful reunion. Captain Lazara raised her hand, signaling for the crew to stop. The rumble grew louder, and the air seemed to crackle with anticipation. Whatever lay ahead, they were no longer just explorers. They were witnesses to the resurgence of a forgotten power. And that power was about to change the galaxy forever. The awakening begins. The deeper the crew ventured into the black ship, the more alive it seemed. The walls pulsed with a low, rhythmic hum that matched the heartbeat of the ship itself. The lights flickered on and off, guiding their way through the vast, abandoned corridors. The temperature seemed to rise as they moved forward, and the crew began to feel the weight of something ancient stirring around them. "Captain, do you feel that?" Lieutenant Trovos asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. "I do," Captain Lazara responded, her gaze sharp and alert. "It's like the ship is reacting to our presence. It's as though it's testing us." They had no choice but to move forward. The air was thick, heavy with the unknown, but the crew pressed on, drawn to what lay at the heart of the black ship. What would they find? An ancient weapon? A forgotten army? The answers were just beyond their reach, hidden behind the ship's thick walls. The corridors twisted and turned in ways that felt unnatural, but there was no denying the purpose behind every turn, every passage. It felt like the ship had been designed for this exact moment, to lead them somewhere. Suddenly, the crew came to a stop. Before them, A massive chamber opened up, stretching beyond their sight. It was dark, but illuminated by strange, glowing symbols on the walls. In the center of the room, a large pedestal stood, surrounded by swirling energy that crackled with power. "This is it," Captain Lazara said, her voice a mix of awe and fear. "This is where the ship's heart lies." They moved closer cautiously, feeling the tension rise as they neared the pedestal. The air seemed to shimmer with raw energy, and the ship's pulse grew louder, sensing with their own heartbeat. "Captain, look," Lieutenant Trovos said, pointing to the pedestal. The symbols were glowing brighter now, pulsating in a rhythm that seemed to match the ship's energy field. Slowly, a figure began to emerge from the center of the pedestal. The crew stared, wide-eyed, as a holographic figure took shape. It was humanoid, but its features were sleek, alien, almost ethereal. The figure looked at them with a piercing gaze, its eyes glowing with intelligence that seemed to reach into the very depths of their souls. "This is impossible," Lieutenant Trovos breathed, his hand trembling. "This looks like an eye, but it's more than that. It feels alive." The figure spoke, its voice deep and resonant. "Welcome, travelers. You have awakened me." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The figure's words were not just a greeting. They were a command. As though it knew they would come, as if the black ship had been waiting for them all along. "You are the chosen ones," the figure continued. "You are the inheritors of this ship. You will carry its legacy forward. The galaxy needs you." Captain Lazara stepped forward, her voice firm. "What do you mean? What is this ship? And why did it choose us?" The figure's gaze intensified, the energy around it crackling with power. This ship was once humanity's weapon. It was forged in the fire of war, designed to protect and to conquer. But time passed, and humanity's need for it faded. We were abandoned, left to drift in the void. But now, the galaxy is on the brink of destruction. The time has come for the black ship to rise again. A chill ran down the crew's spines. This ship, this weapon, was humanity's forgotten legacy, its lost strength. And now it had come back to them. But for what purpose? The figure's eyes seemed to pierce through them. "The galaxy is in peril. The alien empires are rising, threatening to consume all. And only this ship, only you, can stop them." Captain Lazara clenched her fists. The weight of the situation was becoming all too clear. The crew had not just uncovered an ancient relic. They had unlocked a weapon with the power to change the course of the galaxy. But how would they wield it? Could they even control something so powerful? "What do we need to do?" Captain Lazara asked, her voice unwavering despite the overwhelming pressure. The figure raised its hand, and a holographic map appeared in the air before them. "There are many threats, but the greatest one is the Galactic Dominion. They seek to conquer the entire galaxy. Their fleet is unstoppable. You must take the black ship to their heart, their capital. Only there can you stop their reign." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The mission was clear, but it was also terrifying. They were about to face a force they could not even begin to comprehend. And the black ship, despite its power, was still a mystery. "How do we control this ship?" Lieutenant Trovos asked, his voice filled with doubt. The figure smiled, a smile that was both reassuring and chilling. "The ship is now yours to command, but be warned. Its power is as much a curse as it is a blessing. Only those with the strength to wield it will survive." The room darkened, the energy swirling around them intensifying. The ship seemed to react to the figure's words, its pulse growing stronger, more insistent. "Are you ready?" the figure asked. The crew didn't have time to answer. The energy around them exploded, and the floor beneath their feet shook violently. The black ship was no longer just a dormant relic. It was fully awake, and it had chosen them. Captain Lazara held her breath, the weight of their task pressing down on her. They had no choice now. They had to rise to the challenge. The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands, and the black ship would not allow them to turn back. The path to war. The ship's sudden awakening was both exhilarating and terrifying. The crew barely had time to catch their breath before the black ship sprang to life. The once dormant vessel, now fully operational, hummed with a deep, resonant power that reverberated through the ship's vast halls. The corridors, previously silent and cold, buzzed with activity as the ship's systems came online. Captain Lazara stood at the command center, watching as the holographic display came to life. The map of the galaxy, now illuminated by pulsating lines, showed the location of the Galactic Dominion. Its vast fleet moving steadily towards the center of the galaxy, conquering planets along the way. The Dominion's rapid expansion was a threat that could no longer be ignored. "We're too late," Lieutenant Trovos said grimly, looking at the map. "The Dominion is everywhere. If we don't act now, they'll overrun everything." Lazara's jaw tightened. She had no time to question the decision to activate the black ship, but there was no turning back now. The ship was their only hope. "We can't let them reach the core," Lazara said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "Prepare the crew. We're going to need everyone on board for this." The crew moved quickly, each of them understanding the gravity of their mission. They had come to this ancient ship expecting only to uncover its secrets, but now they were facing a battle of unimaginable scale. The black ship wasn't just humanity's forgotten weapon. It was their last chance. As the crew prepared for the mission, Captain Lazara made her way to the bridge, where the rest of her senior officers were already gathered. Trovos, the navigator, was examining the ship's flight systems, while Commander Illyra, the weapons officer, was assessing the armament that had been dormant for centuries. "This ship was built for war," Illyra said, her fingers dancing across the console. "We've got weapons, shields, and propulsion systems that rival anything in the galaxy. But we've never seen a fleet like this before. We'll need every advantage." Lazara nodded, her mind racing. "We need to learn how to use every system the ship has to offer. No stone unturned." Her gaze swept over the crew. They were all young, not seasoned soldiers, but the responsibility was now theirs, and the black ship had chosen them, for reasons they still didn't fully understand. "Captain," Illyra said, her voice cutting through the tension, "I've unlocked some of the ship's weapon systems, but it's clear there's more to discover. I've never seen technology like this before. The power, it's beyond anything we've ever known." Lazara's heart raced. The idea of wielding such power was both exhilarating and terrifying. But there was no time for hesitation. The Dominion was advancing quickly, and if they didn't act soon, the galaxy would fall under their control. "Start with what we have," Lazara ordered. "We'll use the ship's weapons to make our move. We need to cripple the Dominion's fleet before it reaches the core. This ship is the key. We have to make it count." The ship's engines roared to life, vibrating beneath them as the black ship began to move. Outside the windows, the stars stretched into long, glowing lines as they entered warp speed. It was a surreal feeling, speeding through the galaxy in a ship that had been dormant for centuries, but now fully alive with purpose. The crew was tense, aware of the enormous stakes. They were no longer just explorers. They were soldiers, sent to stop an empire bent on destroying everything they held dear. The Dominion had underestimated humanity, assuming their power had long since faded, but they had no idea what the black ship could do. As they moved closer to their destination, Lazara stood before the massive tactical display, the looming image of the enemy fleet growing larger with every passing moment. The odds were grim. The Dominion's fleet was formidable, with hundreds of warships and thousands of soldiers, all ready to sweep through the galaxy. But the black ship, with its unknown power, was their ace. Humanity's ancient weapon had been dormant for too long, but now it was time to awaken. "We're entering the system," Trovos announced, breaking the silence. "Prepare for battle." Lazara's grip tightened on the armrest of her chair. The time for hesitation was over. They had no more time to waste. The first strike would decide everything. The lights of the bridge dimmed as the ship's weapon systems came online. Powerful energy shields hummed to life, and the weapon arrays illuminated with deadly potential. The crew braced themselves, knowing that the battle ahead would be like nothing they had ever faced before. The black ship moved closer to the Dominion's fleet. The massive warships loomed ahead, their engines blazing bright as they cruised through the void, unaware of the threat that was about to strike. For a moment, all was still. Then, without warning, the black ship unleashed its first salvo. The weapons fired with incredible force, ripping through the Dominion ships with unimaginable power. The black ship's energy cannons cracked the hulls of the massive warships like they were made of paper, sending debris flying through space. The battle had begun, and humanity's hidden power, long dormant and forgotten, was unleashed. The battle begins. The black ship's first salvo had been a devastating blow. The Dominion fleet, confident in their overwhelming strength, had never expected such a fierce attack. A massive cruiser at the front of their formation exploded in a shower of debris as the black ship's energy blasts tore through its outer hull. The shockwave rippled outward, striking nearby ships and throwing them off course. Captain Lizara stood firm, her eyes locked onto the tactical display. The battle was far from over, but the first strike had sent a clear message. Humanity's power had not faded. It had merely been waiting. "Target their engines," Lizara ordered, her voice calm but commanding. "Take them out one by one. Don't give them a chance to retaliate." The Lyra's fingers flew across the weapon controls, inputting the commands with practiced precision. The black ship's energy cannons flared again, each shot finding its mark. Another Dominion warship, this one a destroyer, erupted in a blaze of fire as the powerful beams sliced through its engines. The once proud ship was reduced to a smoldering wreck, drifting aimlessly in space. But the Dominion fleet wasn't about to go down without a fight. Ships began to retaliate, launching volleys of missiles and energy blasts in return. The sheer size of the enemy fleet was overwhelming. And for a moment, it seemed as though the black ship would be consumed by the sheer numbers of the Dominion. But Lizara was unshaken. She had been born for this moment. The black ship's hidden power was unlike anything the Dominion had faced. The ship was alive with ancient technology, and every system, every weapon, every shield was at her disposal. "Activate the quantum shields," Lizara commanded. The ship shuddered as its energy field enveloped the black ship, the shimmering shield holding off the enemy's incoming fire. The Dominion's missiles struck the shield, but they barely left a scratch. The black ship was impervious to their attacks, a living fortress in the void of space. Trovos, at the navigation station, was already plotting their next move. "I've identified their command ship," he said, pointing to a massive vessel at the rear of the enemy fleet. "Taking that down will cripple their entire formation." Lizara nodded. "Prepare for a high-speed assault. Full throttle." The black ship surged forward, moving with incredible speed as it darted through the battlefield. Enemy fire continued to rain down on them, but the ship's advanced defenses absorbed the blasts with ease. It felt almost like they were gliding through space, an unstoppable force on a collision course with their enemies. "Lock onto their command ship's weak point," Lizara ordered. "We take that ship out, and the rest will fall apart." The Lyra's hands flew across the controls, and the ship's weapons locked onto the target. The black ship fired again, its energy cannons unleashing a massive blast that hit the command ship with pinpoint accuracy. The ship's shields flared as they absorbed the impact, but it was clear they wouldn't hold much longer. The enemy command ship retaliated, sending out waves of smaller fighter ships in an attempt to disrupt the black ship's progress. The battle was intensifying, but Lizara remained calm, her focus entirely on the task at hand. "Focus on the fighters," Lizara ordered, as smaller, agile ships from the Dominion fleet began to swarm around them. "We can't let them get too close." The black ship's advanced targeting systems locked onto the enemy fighters, and in the blink of an eye, the ship unleashed a devastating barrage of energy blasts. The smaller ships were no match for the black ship's weapons. They exploded in midair, turning to dust before they even had a chance to retaliate. The crew watched in awe as the black ship tore through the Dominion's forces with ease. Every shot fired was precision. Every maneuver was calculated. The black ship wasn't just a ship, it was a weapon. And humanity had wielded it perfectly. "Commander, the command ship is destabilizing," Ilara announced. "It's going to explode." Lizara watched as the massive ship began to break apart under the constant barrage. Pieces of its hull were torn away, revealing the destruction beneath. The black ship had done its job. "Prepare for the final strike," Lizara said. "We finish this now." The black ship moved into position, its weapons charging one last time. The enormous energy cannon at the front of the ship glowed brighter and brighter, reaching its maximum potential. As the black ship locked onto the enemy command ship's core, Lizara felt the full weight of the battle fall on her shoulders. She knew that if they succeeded in this final strike, it would not only cripple the Dominion's fleet, it would send a message to the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The final shot was fired. The beam of energy hit the command ship's central core, causing a massive explosion that rippled through the entire fleet. The ship disintegrated, taking with it hundreds of enemy vessels in a violent chain reaction. The once mighty Dominion fleet, so sure of their superiority, was reduced to burning debris in space. For a moment, all was silent. Then the communications console came to life. The image of a high-ranking Dominion officer appeared on the screen. His face was filled with disbelief, shock, and fear. How did you do this?" he demanded, his voice trembling. "Who are you?" Lizara's voice was cold but resolute. "We are humanity, and this is only the beginning." As the remaining Dominion ships began to retreat, the black ship, now fully awakened, stood victorious. The crew had achieved what seemed impossible, and in that victory, humanity had once again shown its true strength. The galaxy would never be the same. The aftermath of victory. The aftermath of the battle felt surreal. The black ship, despite the intensity of the conflict, glided smoothly through the debris of the destroyed Dominion fleet. For a moment, the vastness of space seemed to hold its breath, the echoes of destruction fading into the void. The crew stood silent, taking in the magnitude of what had just transpired. Captain Lizara, though composed on the outside, felt a swell of emotions inside her. The power of the black ship had proven beyond any doubt that humanity was far from weak. The Dominion had underestimated them, and now the galaxy knew the truth. "Status report," Lizara said, her voice steady, but her mind racing. Ilara, seated at the weapons console, quickly scanned the systems. "We've sustained minimal damage. The quantum shields held up perfectly. But I've detected residual energy from the Dominion fleet. They'll likely regroup and come after us." "We'll be ready for them," Lizara replied. "But first, we need to send a message. We can't let them think this was a fluke." Trovos, the navigator, chimed in. "There are several remaining ships in the fleet, but they're scattered. We could pursue, but the damage to their forces is significant. I recommend we return to the rendezvous point and regroup before engaging again." Lizara considered it for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed. Set course for the rendezvous point. Let's see what kind of shape the rest of the fleet is in." As the black ship made its way back through the debris field, the crew couldn't help but feel a strange sense of accomplishment. They had destroyed the Dominion's mightiest fleet, one of the greatest forces in the galaxy, with nothing but their wits, skill, and the awakened power of an ancient warship. It was a feat that would go down in history, a defining moment in the war. However, Lizara couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this victory was just the beginning. The Dominion, though shaken, was far from defeated. They would regroup, adapt, and strike again. And next time, They might come with even more firepower. "Commander," Elira said suddenly, breaking her thoughts, "I'm picking up something unusual on the sensors. A transmission. It's coming from the core of the Dominion fleet." Lizara raised an eyebrow. "Is it a distress signal?" "No. It's something different. A message, encrypted." Elira's voice was tense. "It's directed at us." "Put it through," Lizara ordered, her tone sharp. The screen flickered to life, and the familiar face of the Dominion officer appeared once more, though now he looked more haggard, his uniform singed from the destruction. His eyes were wide with fear, but there was something else, something calculating behind them. "You think this is over?" The officer sneered, his voice colder now. "You've won a battle, but you haven't won the war. The Dominion will never fall to a single ship. The galaxy is vast, and your precious black ship is nothing more than an ancient relic." Lizara's gaze hardened. "We don't need a fleet to win. We need resolve. We've shown you that." The officer leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You've only just started to awaken the true power of the black ship. But there are forces in this galaxy you cannot even begin to comprehend. Forces that will come for you. Forces that will ensure your humanity's defeat." Lizara's eyes locked onto his. "We will face whatever comes, as we always have. But don't mistake our humanity for weakness. We will rise again and again." The officer's expression shifted, the fear momentarily eclipsing his arrogance. "You don't understand. There is more to the universe than you realize. And soon you will." The transmission abruptly cut off, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. There was no doubt now. The Dominion was planning something more. But Lizara refused to let fear take hold. "Stay alert," Lizara said, her voice steady. "The Dominion has underestimated us before. They will do so again. And when they do, we'll be ready." As the black ship continued on its course, the weight of the officer's words hung in the air. Despite their victory, it was clear that the true fight was far from over. The galaxy was full of unknowns, and they had only begun to scratch the surface. But for now, they had won. And humanity had proven that, against all odds, they could rise from the ashes and strike back with unimaginable power. The battle had just begun. A new dawn for humanity. The black ship, having completed its mission and returned to the rendezvous point, drifted slowly through the quiet space, an eerie silence hanging in the air. The battle was over, but the echoes of it still reverberated through the minds of the crew. They had not just won. They had proven something far greater. They had proven that humanity was not to be underestimated. The power of the black ship, a long-forgotten weapon of unimaginable force, had been awakened once again, and it had turned the tide of the war in one swift stroke. Lizara stood on the bridge, looking out at the vast emptiness of space. The stars were still shining as they always had, but now they seemed to hold a different meaning. Humanity, with all its flaws, with all its weaknesses, had stood tall against one of the most powerful forces the galaxy had ever known. It was a moment of triumph, but also one of reflection. "What now, Captain?" Trovos asked from the navigation console, breaking the silence. Lizara turned to him, her expression a mix of resolve and uncertainty. "Now we prepare for what's to come. The Dominion will regroup, and they won't be the only threat. There are others out there, forces we don't fully understand yet, but we've shown that we can stand our ground." Elira, ever the pragmatist, added, "And we've just scratched the surface of the black ship's potential. Imagine what else it can do, what else humanity can do if we tap into that power." Lizara nodded. "Exactly. The black ship isn't just a weapon. It's a symbol of our potential, of our resilience. We don't need an empire to win this war. We just need ourselves." A quiet murmur of agreement passed through the crew. It was as though the black ship had unlocked something inside of them, something deep and primal. A sense of unity, of purpose. They were no longer just a ragtag group of survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. But Lizara knew that victory was never permanent in the galaxy. The war had only just begun, and the Dominion's defeat would likely only be a temporary setback for them. The fear in the Dominion officers' eyes had been genuine. There were threats out there that humanity had yet to face. Powerful, ancient forces that had waited for the right moment to emerge. A transmission suddenly lit up the screen. It was encrypted, but this time, it wasn't from the Dominion. The message was from an unknown source. Lizara's heart skipped a beat. Could this be another enemy, or perhaps an ally? She quickly ordered the transmission to be decrypted. The screen flickered to life, revealing an unfamiliar face, one of age and wisdom, yet with an intensity that spoke of experience in dealing with much darker things. "Captain Lizara," the figure said, his voice calm but filled with urgency. "I am Trilon of the Galactic Assembly. Your victory over the Dominion has not gone unnoticed. But you must understand, there is more at stake than your war with them." Lizara stood straighter. "What do you mean?" "There are forces beyond the Dominion," Trilon continued, his tone growing more serious. "Ancient forces that govern the balance of the galaxy. Forces that were watching your battle. You have awakened the Black Ship, yes, but you've also made yourself a target for these other powers. They will come, and they will not be as merciful as the Dominion." Lizara's mind raced. The Black Ship had already drawn the attention of the Dominion, and now it seemed to have caught the eye of something even greater. "What do you want from us?" she asked, her voice steady. "I don't want anything," Trilon replied. "But I can offer you guidance, knowledge. The galaxy is vast, and you are not the first to awaken such a power. But you must be ready. The true war is just beginning." With that, the transmission cut off, leaving Lizara and her crew in stunned silence. The implications of what they had just heard were heavy, even overwhelming. The Black Ship, the weapon of humanity, had just become a symbol not only of hope, but of a larger, more complex battle. The Dominion was only one player in this vast cosmic game, and now humanity had caught the attention of even more dangerous forces. Lizara turned to her crew, her resolve hardening. "We've proven ourselves to the galaxy, but this is just the beginning. We have to be ready for whatever comes next, and we will be together." As the crew set about preparing for the challenges ahead, a sense of unity washed over them. They had faced the impossible, and they had won. But they knew that even greater challenges awaited. For the first time in a long while, the crew of the Black Ship felt a flicker of hope. Humanity's future, once uncertain, now held boundless possibilities. Whatever came next, they were ready. The Black Ship had awakened, and so had humanity.